What makes a global TV hit suddenly disappear? For nearly a decade, Cesar Millan's Dog Whisperer captivated millions with dramatic transformations, calming even the most aggressive dogs. But despite its success, the show came to an unexpected end, leaving fans wondering what really happened. Was it criticism from animal experts, legal troubles, changing public taste, or the personal crisis Cesar faced behind the scenes? The truth is far more complicated than a simple cancellation. Behind the fame was a story of pressure, controversy, heartbreak, and survival. After nearly a decade on the air, Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan came to a sudden and unexpected close. Despite boasting millions of viewers at its peak, the show quietly ended after its 9th season in 2012. How could such a successful series simply disappear from television? The short answer is that the end wasn't due to a lack of audience alone. It was a result of complex and mounting pressures that had quietly built up behind the scenes for years. From the outside, the show still attracted around 11 million viewers weekly. But ratings alone do not guarantee renewal, especially when a show becomes a liability rather than an asset. National Geographic had to weigh the risks of continuing something increasingly surrounded by controversy. The combination of legal troubles, criticism from experts, and corporate caution created an environment difficult for any show to survive. What made the situation more complicated was the personal toll on Cesar Millan himself. The man who preached calm and control was losing grip on his own life behind the camera. The show's end wasn't one clean moment. It was the slow culmination of ongoing battles. Lawsuits, a wave of scientific backlash, and personal tragedy all stacked up and intertwined with the network's business choices. Cesar Millan's story begins far from the Hollywood spotlight, in the small city of Culiacan, Mexico. At the age of 21, he stood at the United States border with only $100 his father had given him. His goal was audacious, to become the best dog trainer in the world. For many, this would have seemed an impossible dream, especially crossing a border under dangerous conditions that he later described as life-threatening. But Cesar was undeterred, motivated by a lifelong fascination with dogs and animal behavior. Growing up on his grandfather's farm, Cesar had a natural way with animals that set him apart early on. He noticed that dogs responded differently to him compared to others. Unlike traditional training, he didn't use force or loud commands. Instead, he moved through space calmly, allowing the dogs to sense that there was no threat. This approach wasn't based on formal education, it was instinct. Though veterinary school was a clear path, his family couldn't afford it. Instead, Cesar aimed for Hollywood, hoping to learn through experience. After crossing into the U.S., he found himself homeless briefly in San Diego, scavenging food and sleeping where he could, even in dog kennels where he worked in exchange. Eventually, he ended up in Los Angeles, taking whatever jobs he could find, grooming dogs and doing neighborhood walks. Word of mouth spread fast because the results were genuine. Celebrities and regular dog owners both started seeking him out. A big turning point arrived through a connection with actress Jada Pinkett Smith. Cesar was training a dog for someone she knew, and once she watched him work, she became convinced. She told him that if he wanted to reach more people, he'd have to master English so he could speak to millions. Cesar took it seriously and hired a tutor. He immersed himself in English, deliberately avoiding Spanish-speaking communities until it felt natural. By 2009, Cesar became an American citizen. Going from penniless immigrant to a household name didn't come from luck. It was sheer determination and an intuitive way of understanding animal behavior. Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan premiered quietly in 2004 on the National Geographic Channel. The first episodes were short, 30 minutes long, and often felt more like infomercials than a full-fledged series. The magic of Dog Whisperer came from Cesar's unique ability to transform seemingly uncontrollable and aggressive dogs into calm companions within a single session. Families who had given up hope watched their dogs change right before their eyes. This genuine transformation created buzz that spread mostly through word of mouth, bypassing traditional advertising. By the second season, the network expanded the show to 1 hour and promoted it to prime time. By its 6th season, the show was a global sensation. The New York Times estimated that Cesar attracted around 11 million American viewers weekly, while millions more tuned in from over 80 countries. His appeal crossed cultural and language barriers, drawing audiences fascinated by his calm, assertive energy philosophy. As Dog Whisperer kept growing, so did Cesar's fame and influence. He wasn't just a trainer in Los Angeles anymore. He was shaping how millions around the world thought about canine behavior. From almost the moment Dog Whisperer began drawing audiences, scientists and professional animal behaviorists were watching closely. Their concerns centered on the fundamental principles behind Cesar's training methods. His core philosophy revolved around what he called calm, assertive energy, and the idea that dogs behave aggressively because humans have failed to establish themselves as the pack leader. While this concept made intuitive sense to many viewers, experts argued it was rooted in outdated and flawed science. Dominance theory, which suggests dogs live in strict hierarchies and that owners must assert dominance to control them, formed the backbone of Cesar's approach. However, researchers had already begun dismantling this theory years before the show aired. When scientists studied wild wolf families, they found the social order was more about family relationships and leadership by parental figures than competitive alpha dominance, a finding that mirrors broader shifts in how we understand animal cognition, much like the recent viral fascination with complex social structures in marine mammals that have challenged old dominance models. Leading voices in veterinary behavior questioned the show's message loudly and publicly. Dr. Nicholas Dodman of Tufts University wrote directly to National Geographic in 2006, warning that the program set dog training back by decades. The American Humane Association formally requested that the network pull the show entirely, calling the training methods inhumane, outdated, and improper. The American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior echoed this sentiment in 2009, warning that dominance-based training could increase fear and aggression rather than resolve it. Cesar Millan answered those criticisms with force. He claimed his methods were practical and effective, not just some classroom theory. Having worked face-to-face with hundreds of aggressive dogs for more than 15 years, he hit back at critics and said they usually hadn't dealt with the exact kind of real-life circumstances he had. The worst moments came from very public incidents. In 2012, a British television host aired footage suggesting Cesar allegedly punched a dog in the throat, and Cesar denied it, saying it was a touch. The RSPCA responded that his approach can trigger fear and make behavioral problems worse. Despite the controversy, the show's ratings stayed strong, but the constant public questioning slowly ground down its reputation. National Geographic, which people associate with scientific credibility, ended up in an awkward spot, defending a program that prominent experts said was leading to harmful animal training practices. While criticism from experts damaged the show's reputation, legal troubles created an even more serious problem. In 2012, a lawsuit was filed by a dog owner who claimed their pet was injured during an appearance on the show. The details were disputed, but the lawsuit itself added a new level of risk. Professional criticism could be debated, but legal claims raised concerns for producers, advertisers, insurers, and network executives. Once lawsuits become part of a show's history, every episode is viewed differently. What once looked like dramatic television could suddenly become a liability issue. The controversy did not end with the original show. On Cesar's later series, Cesar 9/11, another incident drew major attention when a dog in training nipped a pig on the ear during filming. California animal cruelty investigators opened an inquiry, and although no charges were eventually filed, the incident created another wave of negative publicity. National Geographic now faced a difficult decision. Cesar still had an audience, but viewership was no longer as powerful as before. Production costs had increased. Scientific criticism, legal risks, and public controversy were all building at the same time. Some critics believed the end was inevitable. Many viewers were becoming more interested in gentler, reward-based training approaches promoted by trainers like Victoria Stilwell. The market was changing, and Cesar's dominance-based style no longer felt as untouchable. While Cesar Millan was facing professional criticism and legal pressure, a devastating personal tragedy struck. In February 2010, Daddy, his beloved 16-year-old pit bull, passed away. Daddy was not just a pet. He had been Cesar's longtime companion, his calm anchor, and one of the most recognizable parts of Dog Whisperer. For years, Daddy represented the balanced energy Cesar always talked about. Losing Daddy affected Cesar deeply. The dog had been with him long before fame, through his early struggles, and through the rise of his television career. But the heartbreak didn't end there. Just 4 months later, Cesar's wife, Illusion, filed for divorce. They had been married for 16 years and shared 2 sons. At a time when Cesar was already grieving, the end of his marriage broke another pillar in his life. Cesar later admitted that this period pushed him into a deep depression. He lost weight, felt drowned by guilt, and dealt with a sharp sense of failure. The man who spent years teaching others how to stay poised and self-assured could no longer find that same equilibrium inside himself. Eventually, Cesar hit a crisis point. He tried to harm himself by overdosing on pills and was found unconscious. It was the lowest moment he ever publicly shared. Luckily, he survived. After that, he chose to rebuild through exercise, work, and reconnecting with purpose. After Dog Whisperer ended in 2012, many people assumed Cesar Millan's time in the spotlight was finished. But Cesar refused to disappear. Instead, he took his message directly to fans through Cesar Millan Live, a touring stage show where he worked with shelter dogs in front of audiences around the world. In 2014, Cesar returned to television with Cesar 911 on Nat Geo Wild, which ran for 4 seasons. He also built a solid YouTube presence, helping him reach younger viewers way beyond what traditional television could do. After years of hardship, Cesar found love once more with Jahiradar, and later he proposed to her in Athens while looking out over the Acropolis. In 2021, Cesar came back again with Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog. This time, the attention moved past the animals. Cesar started exploring how human feelings, habits, and energy can influence a dog's behavior. And you could see his message evolving. Even with controversies, lawsuits, and personal hurt, Cesar Millan still kept going. His path after Dog Whisperer turned into a story about reinvention, toughness, and adaptation. More than a decade later, he remains a familiar voice in dog training, teaching calm not only to dogs, but also to the people who love them. The Dog Whisperer's end was never about one single cause. It was a mix of controversy, legal risks, personal heartbreak, and changing public tastes. Cesar Millan's story teaches us that success and failure often come hand in hand, and that true resilience requires vulnerability, reinvention, and the courage to keep moving forward. If you found this story insightful, please like and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Thanks for watching, and don't miss the next video appearing on your screen.